Greetings, everyone. Welcome back. Today is Earth Day, and well, let's see if we can do something that kind of relates as a reminder of this wonderful little planet. But for fun, though, back for Inktober of 2021, I drew this on the 18th, where the prompt was moon, and what I did was I drew little planet Earth here as seen, well, possibly from the surface of the moon, and I thought that was interesting. And I also have this, which this one's a little bit older. This is like a Hot Wheels car for Earth Day, which I also think is kind of neat too. So when I think of Earth Day, I think about tree huggers, but not in like a negative way. In fact, I think there's a great deal of value to getting outside and appreciating nature. And when it comes to appreciating nature, I like to think about the Lorax. You know what? Instead of starting off with black pen, let's start off with the colors of the Lorax. So I'm going to start off with the mustache, which to me is the most extraordinary. And so let's zoom in on this. I'm not doing any pre-penciling. It's all right if you do, though. And I think the reason why I like to do that in my sketchbook is I like to, in some ways, make mistakes and then live with them. To me, that seems like fun. It's kind of a challenge. Now, from what I remember, there are different versions of the Lorax. There's one that has giant eyebrows, and I think with the way that Dr. Seuss would have drawn the Lorax was that there weren't any eyebrows. I think I'm going to go a little closer to that one. But I'm not going to look it up. I'm pretty sure I know what the Lorax looks like. So I think that's going to be it for that mustache. That's pretty wild. Next, I'm going to go with this orange. And then a lot of the other detail and stuff like that we'll put in after the fact. Now, should the Lorax be mad to start? I don't know. No. Lorax doesn't have to be mad to start. A little round head. We'll make him kind of furry too. Now, I think what makes the Lorax is that of all the creatures that need a specific tree, which I think they're called, I'll think of it in a moment. They're kind of like a palm tree looking thing. Anyway, as I said, I will try to think of it. But from what I remember from the story is that by the end, he's so upset that he decides to leave, and he grabs himself by the tail and lifts himself into the air. And that seems so like it was sad and it was funny all at the same time. Because you hear the expression that some people will, you know, tuck in their tails of sorts and or leave with their tails between their legs or something like that. Dr. Seuss always had a funny way of drawing fur. I don't know if I really can capture that. And as I said, I didn't look them up. So this is just from memory. Let's see if we can go out just a little bit. And maybe something like that. Maybe a little furrier, I don't know. I'll try to lock this down. Okay, now the idea that I had next was to grab something like this. Again, we're just going from memory for something that may not exist. We're just going to do it our way anyway. Which is fine to do. I think it's called a truffalo. Or truffula. A truffula tree, not truffalo. And I'm going with kind of the cotton candy one, so I'm going to make that up here. Kind of looks like a dandelion a little bit here, the way I'm doing it. It doesn't have leaves. Something like that. Now we're going to use the pen and we're going to add a bit of detail. Just move those markers out of the way. I know that's kind of backwards to do it like this. since I was just roughing in the mustache anyway, I figured it'd be kind of fun to let certain things kind of exist before I went and added the black marker, or the black, well, ink pen here. This is more of a tribute kind of thing anyway. And if I was going for accuracy, which, you know, I don't really see the point. Dr. Seuss already did that. I don't have to do things the way someone else would have done it. I recognize what this is. I think that's okay. I don't really know what the nose of the Lorax should look like, but this is how I'm going to do it. And something like that. I don't know if, yeah, I'm pretty sure Dr. Seuss didn't have eyebrows. And maybe had shorter legs. That's okay. I'm not Dr. Seuss. Let's do this other leg down here. Now, I do remember little bits and pieces about the Lorax. Oddly enough, I believe the Lorax speaks for the trees. I think that's kind of like one of the main things that the Lorax says. And I'll have to think about the other thing. I had lots of things to say. I was disappointed with how people treated these trees and were wasteful. Now, I did look up that. It was like a couple of days ago. So I should be able to remember. I believe it's, if someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. I believe that's what it was, and that makes sense. The Lorax would say something like that. So do your best take care of this little planet that we're on. It's a wondrous thing. We all like to worry about what goes on in space, or who might go and visit it, or what beings might exist. But there are beings right here. We should take care of those ones too, you know? Okay. Now, let's go for the final detail of things. Actually, let's see what happens. If we smooth out some of that fur down here just a little bit. Although we might be washing away some of his beautiful orange. But we can add some back in. Now, who was it that did the voice of the Lorax in the movie? Was it Danny DeVito? Or am I just thinking Danny DeVito because he could have played the live action version of the Lorax? But with a Wilford Brimley mustache. That I should have looked up. But I've always liked the artwork of Dr. Seuss. Is it Theodore Geisel? I think that was his full name. I think it was Geisel. While well known for doing a lot of stuff with strange language, fun language, he also did sort of adult themed things as well. But maybe not under the Seuss name. I'm not sure about that. Last thing, let's try a little bit in that mustache. And then we'll do one last little bit of black marker fun. Or should I say fountain pen finishing. Because I do believe this character would get their hands dirty to protect nature and would be very disappointed. Okay. Now for fun, let's see if we can add just a little bit of fun things. I was going to draw what I thought I saw in my head of the Lorax lifting himself by the tail and floating away. I think that's so iconic that I'd want to do that sort of accurately. And I think I picture that in my head a little bit differently anyway, because it just seems so sad. Would have loved to have seen Jim Henson do a Muppet version of the Lorax. That would have been phenomenal. But Jim kind of, had his own grouping of characters anyway, so it wouldn't have really been necessary. So now I'm just adding some fun little details. That will go around the eyes just a little bit. And get some of that last detail of the mustache in as well. So if you can, find a little plant somewhere that needs a little water and give it a little drink. And let it know it matters. It's the closest thing that I can come up with poetry off the top of my head. But I think that's important. Okay. Let's zoom in on that. Now it's funny, when I think about Danny DeVito, of course he played the Penguin. I may have mentioned this before. I think he would have been awesome as the Wolverine, even as, like, you know, just a short, no pun intended, but as a cameo Wolverine. I think that would have been hilarious. Actually, let's make the trees to be a big deal, if you please. And I believe it's like, I speak for the trees, period. Well, I think that's it, folks. I hope you have and had a wonderful Earth Day. And please, get outside, hug a tree, because I think that's awesome if you can do that. That's it, folks. Thanks for hanging out for a minute or so, and hopefully we'll see you again at some point in the future.